Africa. So I came to South Africa in 1974. First place Johannesburg for one day and then Cape Town. So Cape Town was my original place. At that time we had a temple in
Partha.
and my memory is going, Watercan Street.
Watercan, yes.
78 Watercan
Yes.
Street. Down near the harbour, sort of a little, and we rented a place and we had a temple, and I would go to Long Street and distribute books. 1974. So Krishna consciousness is a very vibrant philosophy. You know something about the philosophy from classes and stuff in Cape Town. But what you're experiencing now is the tradition. So you're coming to India and you're seeing 1.2 billion Indians. Of course, Hinduism is an offshoot of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is really like a Western term. What we're presenting is Varnashrama Dham, the original Vedic system, Varnashrama Dham. So what you're experiencing now is like the root. You're seeing some of the culture. And no doubt also experiencing culture shock. You're seeing like different. You're used to a South African culture, which is a little Britishy. But now we're getting a different culture. So sometimes this causes a problem to people, the culture shock. But you have to see through this. The hogs. You've seen the hogs, no doubt, outside, going around eating stool. It's interesting. The new Prime Minister, Modi, was presenting a idea that we should, every Indian household should have a toilet. This is one of his presentations.
A water toilet.
A toilet.
A water toilet.
Yes, not chemical. Definitely water toilet, yeah. But the fact is, every Indian house already has a toilet. There's no need to educate people about that. But it's part of their culture. That early in the morning, and right about now, you see them going to the field, generally in 2s and 3s. Ladies going in 2s and 3s with their plastic water bottles, and they're gabbering, jibber-jabbing, and then they squat down and they continue to jibber-jab while defecating. In other words, it's a social thing. And how I know this is because I used to chant my rounds on the roof. And I have powerful binoculars. And there's a certain area where the men pass, and there's a certain area where the ladies pass. So I can identify the different areas. Not that I was looking. But this is not a point about culture I'm trying to make. Sometimes I go down to the Parikram trail and I just sit there and look at these pilgrims. And ladies would walk by covering their head, but spitting.
Yes.
Now in our culture, it's not really considered appropriate to spit, and yet they're covering their head. You know, it's like almost like, you know. So you got to cut through this culture thing, and sometimes this disturbs people. The dirt, the noise, the pandas. These are the professional priests you may have met from time to time. Other holy places, so when they know that you're a Delhi Indian or a Westerner, and they bother you for money. They're called pandits. And they almost attack you. Some of them are a little more violent than others. You experienced a little, I think, some places are worse, like Varshana. So the point is that the Vedic culture was practiced thousands of years ago in India. And Prabhupada gave the example of the present Hindu culture. And he compared it to an elephant. And he said that an elephant, whether it's dead or alive, is valuable. When it's alive, it's more valuable. But when it's dead, the skin is used for drums, can be used for shoes. The bone is ivory, it's worth a lot. So Prabhupada compared that to this Vedic culture and what we see now, Hinduism, which is what you're basically seeing. But it's still worth something because there's respect for the cow, there is fear of God, although sometimes they're not too sure who is God. There is some idea of afterlife. There is there's a semblance of detachment. You see that, a little detached. And a little on the austere side, because it gets so hot in India. We wouldn't be able to live in the West in this type of heat. It would be just, in the Guinness Book of Records, some years ago it mentioned the hottest place to live was Govardhan Hill.
Really?
It gave a temperature of 56 centigrade. Now we just wouldn't be able to handle that. You know, over 45, different parts of your body, they stop working, your liver, and they don't function so well, stomach and digestion. So they're naturally austere. Naturally austere. And austerity can lend itself towards spiritual life. It can lend itself, especially in a neophyte stage. You know, if you're a little bit inclined to austerity. Like this trip is a little bit austere, I think, to some of you. You know, you don't have your plasma TVs and your computer games to play, and you know, it's a little bit austere. You know, but you're embracing this austerity for a higher cause. And the higher cause is to make spiritual advancement. So this is the purpose of this human form of life. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the introduction to every Bhagavatam, Prabhupada quotes Prahlad Maharaj's verse from the Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5. I think text 1. Kamarnacha Pragyo, Dhammam Bhagavatamiha, Dulabam Manasa Janma. Dulabam means rare. Dulabam Janma. Janma means birth as a human being is very, very rare. It's very rare to take birth as a human being. We might think, oh, just a minute, there's 7 billion human beings. How rare can it be? But if you compare to the animal species, you know, I read an article in the National Geographic. For every one human being, they estimated there's 1 million ants. And that's just ants. What to speak of fish and sardines and bacteria. There are also life forms within your body, within your colon. There are so many amoebas, friendly, we would hope, help digest food and this and that. So there are many species of life. To take birth as a human being is very rare. Ulabam Manasa. Manasa means human. Janma means birth. You know, Janmastami, the birth of Krishna, Janma. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying that take birth as a human being is very rare. And then he says, Kumara Pragyo. Kumara is an age. It's from birth to 5 years old. Kumara. Puganda is from 5 to 10. Krishna has these different age groups. And Kishore is from 10 to 15. That's when Krishna is the most attractive. But when he's a young Kumara is from birth to 5 years old. So from the very beginning of life, one should inquire into spiritual life. One should practice. Why? Because this human form of life is very rare. And although it is temporary, it can give you some eternal benefit. This life we're living is very temporary. We can die at any time at all. Any moment, some accident, Ebola, whatever it may be. So while we have the opportunity at Tata Brahma Jignasya, we should inquire into spiritual life. That word, Tata Brahma Jignasya, that's the first aphorism of Vedanta Sutra. Atato, immediately, Jignasya, inquire into spiritual life. Don't put it off, don't procrastinate. We think we have so many other responsibilities. My career, that's probably foremost in most of your minds now because of your particular age. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? My career choices. Family, that's probably yet to come. I mean, you have parents, but wives and husbands, and then children. Not at the moment, but later it will come. Children responsibility. So we have so many apparent responsibilities, but our real responsibility is to become self-realized, to progress on the path of spiritual life, to make spiritual advancement. This is our real purpose. In the human form of life, we are gifted with what is called intelligence. So therefore we're called rational animals. Every animal, every species of life is empowered in different ways. In the afternoon I sit here in this garden and the monkeys play on these bars. And I see how the monkeys are very agile, incredibly agile. It's almost like a mystic power. A dog has the ability to smell. There's a very keen sense of smell. Hundreds of times I've heard, more enhanced than a human being, they use them to sniff out drugs and things. So every animal has a different, is empowered in different ways. Like a horse, it runs. Kangaroo, pretty obvious. Whether a chameleon changes color. That would have been useful during apartheid time. Changes color at will. So these different animals, they're empowered. A horse to run. So what is the special feature of the human being? Are we empowered to fly? Does a bird go for training lessons? It just naturally flies. No one teaches a bird how to fly. It just flaps its wings and starts flying. If we want to fly, we have a very complicated arrangement in order for you to leave Cape Town and come here to, a 747, a Dreamliner, or A3, 380 bus, whatever, it's complicated. Sometimes they crash. Pollution. But a bird does it naturally. It's almost empowered to do it. But we're not. So what are we as human beings? What special gift do we have that the animals don't have? It's developed intelligence. We can ponder the question, why? What is the purpose of my existence? What am I doing here? What happens at the time of death? The monkey can't ask itself that question. The monkey is just living from day to day. And basically its activities are four things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. It eats, it sleeps, it mates, and then it has to defend those three things. And the monkey scratches, the snake bites, animals have different defensive mechanisms. So if a human being is just doing the same things, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, then he's no better than a polished animal. Prabhupada gave that example, polished animal. But the thing which differentiates us between a human being, between a two-legged animal, pasu. Pasu means animal. And the actual real animals is the ability to inquire about God. or the absolute truth, or what I'm doing here. So we should make that inquiry. And then we become human beings. And just to go around in a fancy Mercedes and live in 5 stars, one and only hotel, Soul Kurzner's thing in Cape Town, that's polished animal. Isn't it? Sit in a fancy revolving restaurant, knife and fork. What difference is that between that and the hog who's eating on the streets? The principle is the same, they're eating. Sleeping in a fancy bed in a 5-star, or sleeping out here in the mud. Sleeping is sleeping. So we become like polished animals. So the human life is meant for this inquiry. And every culture has encouraged us in this way. And this is why we have different religions. There's different religions in different parts of the world. So the Vedic culture is the most developed. It's the most philosophical presentation of the absolute truth. It's the most concise. It's the most consistent. Religion without philosophy is sentimental and sometimes becomes fanaticism. And we see this fanatical Christians. We see fanatical Muslims. We're having a lot of trouble in different parts of the world now, fanatical Muslims. But also you do have fanatical Hindus. The RSS, parts of the BJP, a little bit fanatical. And philosophy without religion is mental speculation. Prabhupada has explained this. People speculate about God, where we came from. Even Einstein, this may interest you, Einstein said religion without philosophy is blind. No, religion without science is blind. And science without religion is lame. So the Vedic culture is a science. It's very consistent, it's very detailed, it's very logical, it's very systematic, and it explains everything. The law of cause and effect, the law of karma, transmigration of the soul, our real identity, our gross body, our subtle body, the existence of God, what is His identity. And no other scripture is an elaborate description of God given. Definitely not in the Bible, and definitely not in the Quran. There's actually injunctions in the Quran that there's no picture. There are symbols, no picture. So the Vedic culture gives description, identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, His pastimes, where He appeared. Then you may say, yes, but this is just the imagination of the author being Vyasadeva, but no, these persons who write this information are self-realized souls, highly developed self-realized souls, and some of them are incarnations of God. Vyasadeva is actually an incarnation of God. So he compiles the Vedas. Lord Brahma compiled Brahma Samhita, giving description of Krishna. So we understand 5,000 years ago Krishna appeared. God, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, the absolute truth is not an abstract principle. He's a sentient being. And where's the logic? Bhagavatam 1:1:1, Janmadesha Yata. English?
The absolute is the source of everything.
The absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. You are all persons. Yes? So the absolute truth must also be a person. If you're a person and the absolute truth is not, it means you're superior to the absolute truth. Or you can experience something the absolute truth cannot. Or the absolute truth is lacking something. The absolute truth cannot lack anything. So the very fact that we're human beings and we have personalities indicates the absolute truth is also sentient. Sentient means personality, not an abstract principle, not some energy, not some nothingness. So that personality of Godhead appears in His creation. He can do this. He has that Shakti, power to do that. We don't. So 5,000 years ago, Krishna appeared. And when the Lord appears, he doesn't just appear by himself. He appears with his associates in his eternal abode. Now, this is different to us. We're ordinary human beings. Your abode is Stellenbosch. Now, when you come to Vrindavan or Delhi, you don't bring Stellenbosch with you. Correct? You don't have that potency. You bring the clothes you wear, but you can't bring Stellenbosch, to Delhi. But the personality of Godhead brings his eternal abode. Vrindavan, Radhakund, Govardhan Hill, Nandagram. These are some of the places you'll be going to. Sevakunj. So we understand 5,000 years ago Krishna appeared, performed pastimes, transcendental pastimes, and we as his devotees visit these holy places. We get purified. We try to remember these holy places. Remembering God, you become purified. The Bhagavad Gita. Matchchata savidurgani maprasaratarashyasi. If you always think of me, matchchata, chita means consciousness. Always think of me with your consciousness. You'll pass over all the obstacles of material life, Durgani. But not just Krishna, Krishna's associates and Krishna's abode, Jamuna Devi, Radhakund, this Govardhan Hill. So, by visiting these holy places, everything becomes a lot more real. Before you were just reading and you were hearing from others who had visited. Now you're seeing with your own eyes, and it's reinforcing your faith. This is very good. This is good. So I encourage you to continue making spiritual advancement. You might say, well, what about my career, family, this, that? You have to balance. You have to balance everything. We need some career. Why is that? Because we need paisa. We need to make some money because the nature of this body needs food, lodgings, transport. So some career, some job. But this is not the real goal in life. The real goal in life is to become self-realized. To be self-realized means to become God-realized. To realize Krishna in our lives. How he's very much in our lives. Guiding us, directing us, inspiring us. The Lord inspired all of you. This word inspiration is very interesting. What is this inspiration? Beethoven is walking and suddenly some tune comes into his mind as he's walking along wherever it is in Germany. Da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Some tune. He's inspired. Inspiration. Inspiration comes from God. So you've been inspired to come here. You didn't have to come to Vrindavan, Mayapur. You'll be going to Mayapur also? Where else?
We have a short stop over in Varanasi.
In Varanasi, yeah. So you've been inspired. This is very good. So I seriously encourage you to continue on this path and don't get too much distracted. There are many distractions. As you get older, old age becomes a big distraction. But you're all younger.
Yes.
Except for,
here you're right.
except for,
That
except
old
for,
age becomes a distraction.
it does.
Tell me more.
How old's your body?
How is my body?
How old?
72.
Wow.
Even I'm sickly, don't worry.
You look good. Well, I'm
And the
62.
The thing I do most of the time is to talk with my friends about all my sicknesses. You mean that?
Yes. I mean, when you're older, old age and death are like two sisters. And old age becomes a disease, becomes a preoccupation. You do tend to talk about it. I'm also very sickly, actually, to tell you. Although I don't look at it, I'm speaking quite enthusiastically. I'm actually a very sick person. But the point is, we're not this body. We're not this material body. We're not South African, 72 years old, English, 62, female, male, Xhosa, Zulu, Afrikaans, English. We're eternal spirit soul. And first that starts theoretically. First there's a theoretical understanding. And then gradually, that's called Gyan, theoretical. Gradually that's turned into something called Vigyan, which means realized. You begin to realize it. Now that's not faith, something beyond faith. You begin to realize it. That's what we want. Full realization that I'm not this changing, temporary, material body, which is prone to disease, sickness, and which is going to be eaten by maggots, or burnt, ashes to ashes, in the crematorium. I'm none of this. I'm the eternal soul within the body, situated in the area of the heart. From the soul comes consciousness. I am conscious. This table is not conscious. Although this camera can see, in a sense, it is inert dead matter. It is not conscious. Has no feeling of hunger and thirst, or cold and hot. But we do. We're sentient. We feel hungry, thirsty, uncomfortable, hot, whatever, because we are spirit souls. So not only do we want theoretical knowledge, but we want to realize this. And this comes gradually, Kramena means gradually, as you practice spiritual life. You know, the idea that it comes immediately is it's sentimental. It takes a while. Like if you want to be a medical surgeon or, you know, a neurosurgeon. I mean, does it happen like that? It takes time. You have to train under other surgeons so many years. So in spiritual life, one has to be trained under the guru, spiritual master, and gradually you make advancement. And then you begin to realize, I am not this material body. I am not the car that I drive in. But people identify with that car, isn't it? The Lamborghini man, he thinks he's a Lamborghini. You know, and the person in the Mazda or Toyota Taz, he thinks he's a Taz. So we're not. You're the driver of the car, and without the driver, that car is useless, doesn't go anywhere. Can't even start the engine. Zero, right? What is the purpose of a car? To take you from A to B. Without the driver, the car is useless. So this material body is useless without the soul, the life force, consciousness. That's what we want to understand. The nature of consciousness, the life soul within the body. So please continue in your attempt and don't become discouraged. Don't become discouraged. Be enthusiastic in your practice of spiritual life here and also when you go back to Stellenbosch and resume your mundane activities. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions you'd like to ask? Or comments if you'd like to make? I hear the preaching is going very nicely in Stellenbosch, and I encourage you to continue. It's very important. Irene?
Irene.
Yeah.
No, I was wondering, you said like we should continue when we go back and do our mundane activities, and I was immediately thinking about my studies, because studies is so, like if you study, it can be so draining and depending, but even we should learn. I'm struggling to see my studies also as a service.
Yeah.
Because I plan to engage it in service.
Some or other you have to dovetail If you can dovetail your mundane material studies in Krishna consciousness, then it becomes more inspiring. But sometimes it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you have to do something which is not particularly enlivening. But you know, you need to make some money by which you can come here to India and maintain your body and practice spiritual life. Unless you have some family member who's a multi-millionaire, and like Bill Gates or something, you know, and just live off an allowance. But how many of us can do that? So, you know, you need to maintain yourself.
Yeah.
So we should accept an occupation or activities which at least is not disfavorable or unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. Like I wouldn't advise you to become a butcher. That's not actually very favorable, to be honest. So that's part of life. But the example is Srila Prabhupada, our own Guru Maharaj, who was a pharmacist and ran his own business, but was self-realized. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a magistrate. And yet they balanced spiritual life. And not only did Bhaktivinoda Thakur have a responsible job, he was a magistrate during the British Raj, but he had 12 or 13 children. I mean, not like, you know, one kid or two. You know, he had like, you know, a dozen. But he balanced it. And he was also self-realized. But these are very great souls. I mean, they're way above me or the types of devotees you'll meet. You know, and I never got married. And I never went to a career. I mean, I just joined the Hare Krishna temple in London, you know, when I was 20 years old. So it's a question of balancing it. So just balance it and put your faith in Krishna. Krishna will give you intelligence. Tadami buddhi. Tadami buddhi yogam tam. Buddhi means intelligence. Tadami means in the heart. Krishna will guide you to make the right choice, right decisions.
Thank you, Maharaj. What can we do to become situated on the expressway back to Godhead from our side?
Have you read Nectar of Instruction?
I actually read quite a bit from it today, but I have read the book before.
Nectar of Instruction, text number 3. Utsanishta dayat tat tat kama pravatana. Enthusiasm, patience and confidence. So the root there is enthusiasm or utsaha. Be enthusiastic about God consciousness, self-realization, and everything else will follow. And we can learn from the materialists. They're very enthusiastic about material sense enjoyment, like they're very enthusiastic about sex or drugs. The politician is very enthusiastic about name and fame and votes. Warren Buffett is very enthusiastic about money. So we're enthusiastic, but about spiritual life. It's called utsahan. Activities practiced in Krishna consciousness means enthusiasm. Sorry, activities practiced with intelligence in Krishna consciousness. That's a definition in that verse. So be enthusiastic. It's not always easy. The alarm clock goes off early in the morning. It's winter. It's cold. And you have to get up. Try to be enthusiastic. Chanting your rounds early in the morning. That's the best time. Fasting. Our fasting is not outrageous. Twice a month, no grains. A couple times a year we fast till moonrise. It's not ridiculous. But a little bit of fasting, a little bit of austerity. Be enthusiastic. Utsahan. Patience. We also have to be a little patient, but at the same time enthusiastic. It sounds contradictory, but patient, hoping against hope for the goal, at the same time enthusiastic. Tat karma pavatana, following the rules and regulations. What are the rules and regulations?
Rules and regulations are
Well, the 4 regulative principles. If you can follow that, that gives you determination. If you compromise those 4 principles, no meat, intoxication, illicit sex, then it compromises your determination. It weakens your determination, actually. So try to strictly follow those principles. That's negative, right? No meat, no eggs, it's all negative. Then positive, chant Krishna's name, associate with devotees, read the philosophy, try to understand the philosophy. Associate favorably with devotees, as against criticizing. And that would be fast tracking.
Thank you very much for the talk. I have a son who's 7 years old.
A son,
Yeah.
7.
And he's living with his mother, but she's not spiritual or religious at all. So I'm wondering how I can best try to inspire him in Krishna consciousness, because I know often that the child doesn't take to the religion of the parent.
Yeah. When you're 7 years old, you're an extension of the parents. And you can be molded like dough. So it's difficult if the child's not with your boy or girl,
As a boy.
or not with you. But at least you can take in prasad. And on religious days, if you're allowed to take him to the temple and expose him to the holy name.
He unfortunately lives in a town that's hundreds of kilometers from the nearest.
Oh, I see. So prasad. And when the opportunity arises, talk to him about Krishna a little. But 7-year-old child is not able to think for himself. It's only when they get a little older they start to figure things out. But indirectly, without him knowing, you can give him prasad and talk to him a little bit about Krishna.
Do you think it would be alright if I just use the name God because his mom might be scared?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's only when you get older, when a child gets a little older, that the child begins to sort of discriminate and figure things out for himself and apply logic to what do I want to do, what do I not want to do, and all that. But the best way is prasad. Sweets, nice prasad. Yeah. Yeah, we're living in the Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga means the age of quarrel. So, you know, age of quarrel.
Yeah, for Kali.
Kali, K-A-L-I, Kali. So we see that the divorce rate is like 50%. So, unfortunately, you know, husband and wife separate and then the child suffers because there's no father in the life. It's unfortunate in the Kali Yuga. It's one of the symptoms of this Kali Yuga.
Can I ask you a personal question? How has your life been as a guru?
How has my
Life been as a guru?
I started looking after people, culturing their spiritual life in the 1970s. So it was a natural progression that I started initiating in 1990. I tried to look after people, guide them, direct them. Sometimes they respond, but the influence of Maya is very strong. And sometimes they don't always respond as I would like them to. But I'm also doing it on behalf of my guru, Srila Prabhupada initiated me in 1973 and looked after me and created this institution that nourished my spiritual life. So I'm simply trying to do what he did for me, I'm trying to do for others. Yeah. And I have hundreds of disciples, I see them as really the property of my own guru, and that simply I am their caretaker or looking after them on behalf of my guru. So I'm not trying to exploit them from the material point of view or accept their worship in a self-centered way, but transfer it to my guru, Srila Prabhupada.
Adopt.
And?
Adopt.
Induct, yes. Yes, Srila Prabhupada didn't have to leave. He was in Vrindavan, 1959 to 1965. He didn't have to leave and go to America to preach, but he chose to. And he even came to South Africa in 1975 for 19 days. Again, he didn't have to. During apartheid time, he was risking. So he took chance. He took a chance. So I feel indebted. He gave me something. And how do I pay back that indebtedness? How do I attempt to pay that back? To give what he gave to me, I try at least to give to others. So that's the mood of a guru, to try to help others. A guru is supposed to remove doubt in spiritual life and is supposed to help others in their spiritual advancement. So I'm trying to do this. Anything else?
Are there any other English gurus who still live here?
See, I have bad health, so I'm not preaching so much. I used to preach a lot. For instance, this year I never came to Cape Town. But usually every year I visit Cape Town, at least for a couple of weeks. But my health was very bad. So when your health is good, then you can travel around and preach more. Poland, Russia, South Africa. When your health is bad, the preaching changes a little. It's more by example. So I'm not able to travel so much. So reluctantly I sort of stay in one place. I hope to be here for like 3 or 4 months, where I chant extra rounds, do a lot of chanting, read esoteric scriptures, and go deeper into the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So there's not so many in my category. Indraduna Maharaj is definitely not. He's got good health, or better health than me anyhow, and he has so much energy and preaching. Kadambakar Maharaj, he's also he's got much more energy. Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj has got much more energy, travels.
Thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you all. We have some little sweet to give you all. Shadam? You give out, Kavi. Is that right? This is what, some property. Some property. You like it?
Yeah.
We've heard a lot about the sun property from Govardhan.